What's up YouTube, and welcome back to another Procreate tutorial where today I'm going to show you how you can create this Pokeball design. Now it does have this version here with the glow, or you can do it without the glow. Whichever one you prefer. We're going to go ahead and do the normal version first and then the glowed version afterwards. Now you can grab all of the requirements for today's design, which is just the canvas size and the palette, which is available over my Patreon completely for free, and there's a link to the post in the description down below where you can grab all of the requirements. Now this Pokemon themed design for today is inspired by the fact that I actually have a Pokemon channel myself here on YouTube where I open up the packs and I work towards all the objective and goals for collecting all the Pokemon cards. So if that's something you're interested in, there'll be a link to it in the description down below, which is Joel's Gaming Adventures here on YouTube. Again, Joel's Gaming Adventures, and it'll be linked in the description down below. So enjoy today's tutorial and let's get started. So to get started, we're going to go ahead and just create some basic shapes. So we're going to go to our brush and change it to calligraphy and the monoline brush. And then just for a minute, just go ahead and go to your disk and just double tap on the left hand side there to select grey. And then we can go ahead and just start drawing in some shapes. So we're going to start off by just drawing in a circle. I've got the brush set to the smallest size possible. It doesn't matter necessarily. I'm going to hold my pen at the end to get a perfect shape. But if I pop one finger on the screen, I get a perfect circle. Now I need to go ahead and tap on my cursor. And then using uniform, if you tap on the node in the top right corner there, you can change this to 1256, and that'll be the correct size that I'm going to use. And then you can drag that into the center. Now, if you go ahead and turn on snapping here in the bottom left, you can drag it until you hit those orange lines, which lets you know you're both aligned both perfectly vertically and horizontally in the middle of your canvas. And then tap on your cursor when you're done. Now just go ahead and go to your color and just drag it into the shape just for a minute, just to fill it. Then we're going to go to that layer, just tap on it and bring its opacity right down to say 10%. Then swipe it to the left and duplicate it. It doesn't matter what the percentage is because in a minute we'll bring it back up to 100. The duplicated version, just go to your cursor, using uniform again, tap on your node in the top right and change this to 526. And then it will scale itself and you can drag it again perfectly into the center like so. And then go to your layers, swipe that to the left and duplicate it. The top one then, go to your cursor, tap on the node in the top right and it's 338. Nice and small, that goes in the center again. And then go to your layers one more time, swipe it to the left and duplicate it. Go to your cursor, tap on the node and it's 238 that we want. And then we can again drag that into the center. Now, potentially it might do that, so you just need to drag it in. And then tap on your cursor when you're done. And then the final shape we need is the band. So we're going to go ahead and go to our layers and create a new layer. We'll go to our selection tool. I've got rectangle selected and color fill is turned on, so it's blue like this. And then if you go ahead and just drag out a rectangle roughly, say just the width of the circle there, and then go to your cursor and then tap on the node in the top right, but turn this icon off. So that means it's not going to change both at the same time. We want to change this to 1186, and then we're going to change the height to 107. There we go. And you'll see it just adjusting itself. And again, just drag that into the center, hitting the orange lines, and then tap on your cursor when you're done. Now we just need to go ahead and color everything to the correct colors before we carry on. So let's go to our layers. Let's first of all drag this bar so it is this position here. It is underneath all three circles and in front of the biggest one. While we're on this layer, just drag your color. So go to your colors, grab the bottom of the fifth column now and drag that into the bar. Then go to your layers, go to the layer above, which is the largest circle in the center there. Tap on it, bring it back up to 100% and drag in the color as well into there. Then go to your colors and now let's change it. We need the gray tone here, the middle of that fifth column as well. Then go to your layer above, tap on it and bring its opacity up to 100%, drag the color in, then go to your layer again, up one more, tap on it, 100% opacity again, and then drag it into the center. We'll deal with that later on. And then the largest circle at the very bottom, again, tap on that and bring that up to 100%. We want to go ahead and drag in the same color into this area here. Now, what we also need to do is a little bit of editing here and just tightening up. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and go to our actions. We're going to go to our drawing guide and turn it on. Let's edit the drawing guide. Let's use the option here of symmetry. And if you change the option down here to the option of quadrant, and then hit done. If we go to the layer, it should say assisted. If it doesn't, just tap on it and make sure you turn on drawing assist. Then just grab your eraser, tap on your eraser and use the monoline brush again. Probably want to bring the brush size down to like a 4 or 5%. We just need to go ahead and create this kind of overhang here on the edges. So what we do is we just need to go ahead and draw in like a horizontal line that carries on the belt, as you can see here. And you can just manually erase all of this. And then you just need to round off this corner. That's all you need to do, just a very simple rounding of the edges. And because we've done the drawing assist, it's done it on all of the areas as well for us. So now if we go ahead and turn off our drawing guide, we also want to go to the layer and turn off the drawing assist. And then finally, we'll go to our selection tool. We will use rectangle again, but tap on color fill to turn it off. And then just draw, just make a selection of the top area of the Pokeball. And then just go ahead and go copy paste. And then if you go to your layer, you'll have this new section here for the top. And if you go to your colors, if you grab the top of the 5th column and drag it into there, you've now got all of the shapes ready to go. So you've got this nice flat version. You could use this if you wanted to. Of course, you'd need to do something here with the center circle here, potentially brighten it slightly, but you've got a nice flat version. We're going to, of course, make it nice and 3D and shiny. Let's go to our background color. Let's change it to the color in the bottom right of the palette and hit done. And then we're going to go ahead and start in the red section and we're going to make our way down. So we're going to create a new layer, tap on it and clipping mask it. I'm going to go to my colors. We're going to move left of the base color first. So that's the base color. We're going to go top of the 4th column. We're going to go to our brush and use the airbrushing and soft brush. That's primarily going to be our brush of choice for today. And we can start off maybe around about, say, the 9%. We want to go ahead and just sort of darken up under here a little bit. And don't be afraid to be kind of bold with the color. Just going to put a little bit of darker color in here as well. And of course, we've got much darker tones to introduce. So these are kind of your build-up tones. I'm going to go around the top. And in fact, I might go a little bit larger, about 15%. I'm going to create like a curved kind of shape at the top here just to create some dark shadow. And that should be a nice little introduction to some of the darker tones. Again, just looking for this to be a little bit darker here. And that looks pretty good in this corner. Now, just as a heads up, our light source is going to be top right across to bottom left. So we're going to end up with a nice bright patch here. And based off the curvature and all the sort of indentations here, we're going to end up with some nice areas of sort of sharp shadow, etc. later on. I'm just going to make sure that that rounds off a little bit there too. We're then going to go to our colors. Let's grab the top of the 3rd column now. And we're just going to carry on, just keep darkening up certain areas. I want to darken up round here on that right side and kind of blend that round. So just right over towards that edge with a little bit of shadow coming across. You can be nice and light with your pressure. Just really take your time to build it up. Let's go round the top edge here. A little bit round like so. And we can just make sure it's nice and dark at the top. We're going to darken up the bottom left corner here as well. We're going to round that off into here. And then we're also going to create like a bit of a separation here in this area here. So I'm just going to punch in some shadowy tone there and roll that round lightly, just round towards that left-hand side and maybe just a little bit down there too. So you end up now already isolating areas of shadow. And if we go to our darkest tone now for the reds, top of the 2nd column, we're going to emphasize it a little bit more. So again, I'm going to sort of come around this bottom right edge here, a little bit round as well. I'm going to bring the brush size probably down a little bit to about 6% and just go along there, a little bit round the back edge there, and just blending it round. Definitely going to get a bit darker at the very top and then like a little bit of a wiggle through the center. So like a little bit of extra darkness there, and maybe just bring that round to the left ever so slightly. Just so again, you end up with more contrast and different tones in here as well, which will look great. So that is actually all the shadows, and I want to do all the shadows all the way around first. So we're going to go ahead and move down into the bottom area where we can then add the shadows to the bottom half as well. By the way, did you know I actually have a Pokemon channel? It's where I open my Pokemon cards and we go ahead and add them into the binders and all the different objectives that I've got going on. So if you want to go ahead and check that out, I'll leave a link to it in the description down below, but it's Joel's Gaming Adventures. Again, that's Joel's Gaming Adventures, and that's where I open all my Pokemon cards. So make sure to check that out if you're a big fan of Pokemon. Anyway, let's carry on with the tutorial. So towards this bottom half here, we're going to go ahead and go to that layer, which is the bottom layer here. We'll go ahead and create a new layer and tap on it and clipping mask it. We'll go to our colors. We'll go to that will be the fourth color in the middle row. It's the middle of the fourth column anyway. Brush, we're going to set to about 8 or 9% again. And we're going to just round in some shadow here. So I've got a big shadow there at the bottom. I'm going to wrap that round on the bottom left and just kind of blend it out a little bit. But I need to have some other areas, such as here with a 6% brush size. Just going to sort of darken up just here a little bit. And then just here as well, just lightly in the kind of center area of the ball, we'll add in a little bit there too. And I want this shadow to be fairly substantial over here. I'm just going to make sure it's nice and solid. I will get rid of this line because I want to just blend it out. I don't want it to be too solid of a shape in there. We're then going to go to our colors and grab the next dark tone. So it's the middle of the third column. Gonna just bring the brush size down to that 4 or 5% and just darken up a little bit around here. Really, really light with my pressure at this point. Just trying to build it in lightly and gradually. I'll go to 9% and we'll just darken up towards the bottom edge. And then I'll just rotate my canvas just to make life a little bit easier for me. I'm just gonna blend in that darkness. Now at the bottom sort of left area is where we're primarily gonna be darkening up the most. And you just want to wrap that shadow all the way up into that edge up here. Make sure you have a nice little bit of contrast in the gray area because the gray area is pretty boring. So we need to kind of elevate it a little bit. So I'm just going to emphasize that shadow there a tiny bit more. And then we do have a slightly darker color, which is then this one here, middle of the second column. You want to be a bit scarce with this. So about 7%. I'm just going to go ahead and kind of run in a slightly bit of a darker angle. You can see the angle I'm running it in at, and then darkening up the bottom as well, rounding that off a little bit, and then maybe even a bit of darkness as well in there. And I think that'll do nicely. A little bit of darkness there too. We're trying to give it a little bit of a metallic metal look, of course, at the same time. And I might even go a little bit bigger and just bring that shadow round up there as well. Just trying to make sure that that area there has got a little bit of contrast to it. And I'll push that in there. Now the other thing to do is actually start working in some sort of indentations and sort of edges. So we're going to bring the brush size down to like a 2%. And using this tone here, be very, very scarce with it. I'm going to rotate my canvas so it's upside down. I'm just going to go ahead and shadow in here with just a very small indentation in towards the center. A nice little sort of shadow on the edge there of the kind of metal-like shape. And you can make sure it's nice and firm in terms of a shape. But you want it to have that little bit of darkness just wrapping round towards the opposite side. And that's it in terms of shadow for the bottom half. If we go to our colors though, and we move to this white tone here, which is the middle of the sixth column, we can now start to add in some indentations that are slightly brighter. Now I'm going to bring my brush size a smidge smaller, so a smaller 2%. I'm going to go along this edge here, just brightening that up a tiny bit. And then into here, we want to go ahead and add in a nice little indentation again, and nice sort of little bit of light just catching on the inside edge of here. And then you should end up with this nice little white little detail. You can equally go ahead and add one on here too. Just keep it nice and gentle. Don't add in too much, and maybe a little bit more off to the right hand side like so. And then while we're using this white tone, let's just set our brush size to like a 5 to 7%. And very, very lightly, just round here, round this edge, just brighten this up, just bringing in a little bit of white around that bottom corner. And I think we could maybe add in a tiny little bit as well, just over here, like so. Not too much, just keep it light as possible. In fact, I might even undo that and just do a few shades lighter, like so. There we go. And then I just want to go ahead and grab my color, and I'm just going to grab the middle of the third column. Brush wants to be set to about 5%, and then I'm just going to break that down a tiny bit by wiggling my pen along. I want it to have like a little bit of a chamfered edge to it, but not too perfect. I want it to have a little bit of light, but it also falls off quite nicely as well. Let's then move into this center area here. So we're going to go to our layers. We're going to go up towards the top. Now, one thing you can do is actually pinch the black circle and the black bar together onto one layer. If we go to the layer above, we then want to go ahead and create a new layer, tap on it and clipping mask it to the circle. If we then go to our colors and we grab the middle of the fourth column, we want to go ahead and with the brush size set to around about 5%, just start in the middle and go outwards very slowly. And then slowly but surely, you'll reveal the other circle that is sat on top. And then towards the bottom left area, you kind of want to just darken that up a bit more. But a light little whip around the top will look nice to emphasize the shape. But then go to your colors and you can grab the middle of the third column and then just shadow in that area there, making it a much darker tone. And then I'm going to grab my colors, and I'm also going to go ahead and grab the middle of the second column. And then with a slightly larger brush size of like a 7%, I'm just going to drag down in a bottom left angle here to just create like a bit of a dragged shadow as well. So it's kind of just creating a bit more of an elevated look to it. Now, just like we did earlier, we can also add some highlights and shadows to this. So we can go ahead and grab, again, the middle of the second column, set your brush size to like a 1 or 2%, and then just round this edge in the bottom sort of left corner, you can just very lightly add in like a bit of a dark line. Again, bottom left corner only really, and just darken that up, introducing again a little bit of a kind of 3D element to it. If you then go to your colors and grab the white in the middle of the, what's that, the sixth column, you can do the opposite as well. You can go round the top left edge there really lightly and just add in like a little bit of a bright chamfered edge to it almost, and then bring that round. There we go. So you should be able to see it, but it's subtle at times as well, which is nice. Let's go ahead and just add some color to the other dot as well. Now I'm keeping this layer clipped because there's also an option that we can make this glow later on, and you'll want this to be separate. So make sure it's separate here. For the top circle, you can go ahead and you can alpha lock it if you want to. I'll tap on it and alpha lock it. I'll go to my colors and we'll start with shadows. So we'll go to the middle of the second column and we'll just set our brush size to like a 3 or 4%. And just lightly, I'm going to go a bit bigger, 4%. Just going to go around the bottom left edge there, just giving it a little bit of shadow, nothing heavy like underneath it, just a little bit of color in there like so. And then we'll switch to the white in the middle of the sixth column. Set that brush size to like a 1 or 2% again. And just like before, we'll just add in a little bit of a bright edge in that top left area. There we go, little something like that. You've got that kind of 3D, almost button-like shape to it. Now let's carry on and adding highlights, but let's go to this layer here, the black layer. If we tap on it and we alpha lock it, if we go to our colors and we grab the light tone, which is this one here, it's the bottom of the sixth column, soft airbrush around about sort of 6 to 7%, and just over here, just very lightly, just blend in a little bit of gray, and likewise over here, blend in a little bit of gray. So you've got that kind of light tone coming in from the edges. And then just very lightly with a sort of 3 to 4%, 3 should look fine because it'll fit in the gap nicely. Just a little bit of gray right in the middle of the dark areas. So like a little something like this. We're going to fade it out in a second, and maybe a little bit of a line running through there, like so. Then we can go to our colors and grab the darker tone, which is almost black, which is the bottom of the fourth column. And with your brush set to like a 4 or 5%, you can now just shadow that back in. So I can shadow under there. I can then shadow around here too, in the bottom left area of that kind of center point. And then underneath the top ledges as well. So I can shadow under here, and I can shadow under this one too, creating that really nice harsh but downward lit lighting. And then you should end up with like little patches of gray in there, but just enough shadow as well to make it really pop. Now let's go ahead and add in the highlights to the top area as well. So we're going to go to the layer that we had just clipped to it. We're going to go ahead and on the same layer, go to your colors and move into this color here. It is the top of the sixth column. Your brush wants to be around about that 7% range, I think. And just lightly up here, just start to build in a little bit of a light area. I'm going to go to 6%. Just build in a little bit of light tone and blend it down so it's a little bit brighter towards the edge. And then rotate round and go into this area and just do the same, except you might be able to be a bit harsher with your little curve that we're creating here and then blend it down ever so slightly, but you should end up with like a nice little bit of highlight starting to appear. So it's already starting to look a lot more shiny. If we go to our colors and we grab the color just beside it, so it's the top of the seventh column, you can then very lightly with your brush around about 3% over here, a very light line So about 3%, just a little bit of a light line. There you go. Just follow the curvature of the actual Pokeball. While we're using this color, let's also go ahead and just brighten up the inside edge here. Now you want to be really, really light with it. So I'm going to bring my opacity of my brush down to say like 40%, just so I can build it up if needs be. I just want to be very, very light in there to add in that little sort of, again, little edge to it. And then let's go ahead and make sure our opacity is back to 100%. We're going to zoom in and we're going to use the same color, but we're going to start with around about a 3 to 4%. And just in here, you're going to build up a highlight, blending it down slightly. Just start really, really light and then bring your brush size down to like a 3 or 2%. And then in there, up towards that edge that you've created, just really brighten that up, creating a lovely, bright, shiny reflection in that top right area like so. And then you can do something fun. You could go ahead and just set your brush size to like a 3% and just create like a random little extra bit of reflection, say here. It's just like sort of creating this studio environment that this photograph was taken in. Now, if you go to your colors and then just move into the dark tone again, which is the top of the second column, we're just going to do the inside edges here as well. So we're going to go down to a 2% and just triple check that these are nice and dark. And then likewise here too, we're just going to bring in a nice dark tone on the inside edge. Just try and do it in a couple of sort of motions if possible. Don't layer it in like I just did initially. And then under here too, nice sort of dark edge to it. And it should look nice in 3D. Now at this point, your Pokeball is somewhat pretty much done. You could leave it like this where it's a little bit sort of more muted, a little bit kind of normal. If you go ahead though and swipe your red tones to the left and duplicate them and then go to the blend mode of the one above, change it to the option of overlay, you'll get this much more sort of quite saturated, very shiny look to it. And perhaps it may make a few areas a little bit too dark, but you may prefer this much more saturated version. Now, one thing I want to do just quickly is go ahead and select every layer for the Pokeball. And from left to right, then grab your cursor. Don't worry about whatever square it looks like. Just rotate it. Rotate it like around about, say, 8 to 10 degrees, something like that. And then tap on your cursor when you're done. Just so it's not so perfect and straightforward and a bit boring. Let's go ahead and just add in a bit of a light reflection at the floor here. And then I'm going to go ahead and show you afterwards how to create like a glowing version of this as well. So we're going to create a new layer and drag it all the way to the very bottom of our layers. We're going to go to our colors and we're going to grab the gray tone here, the middle of the second column. Soft airbrush still again, about 7%. And you're just going to go ahead and just drag out from kind of the center point of the Pokeball off to the left-hand side. Maybe a little bit off to the right as well, but more so off to the left. So you create this kind of drag. Then go to your colors and grab the background color, bottom right of the palette, and bring that down to say like a 3 or 4%. And then underneath, you may need to make your canvas kind of straight like mine. Underneath the point at the lowest point here, you want to start there and then build out towards the left, creating the shadow. So what we're doing here is we're kind of adding in the reverb of the sort of shiny metallic color here that's landing on the ground. And then we're equally adding in, of course, the shadow that it would create onto the ground as well. I'm just trying to make sure that that shadow is nice and present off to the left-hand side, like so. And then maybe you might want to go to your darker tones here for the Pokeball at the bottom half there, like so. And even though we've got the background color, just bring your size up to around about, say, 9% and your opacity to about 26. Just keep it really, really light and just very lightly at the bottom here. Follow the curvature though. Build in some darker tone. I'm going to make my opacity a bit bigger because I'll just be delicate with the pressure sensitivity. And just a tiny, tiny bit of darkness under there will look great. So your Pokeball there looks great. Nice and shiny, looks really cool. And it reflects a lot of the real world Pokemon, sort of how it would look. However, you can go ahead and make this area glow like it does in the cartoons when you've captured a Pokemon. So what we can do is, if you want to do this, you can go ahead and swipe from left to right on the outer circle here. So at the top here, you've got the button, and underneath, you've got the 2 layers. Swipe from left to right and group them together, and just call this group, just call it original. That way you can keep it as a backup. If you collapse it down and swipe it to the left and duplicate it, and then rename the top one and call it glow, you can then go ahead and turn off the bottom one, for example. You can go open up your glow one and you can go to this layer here for the base color and go to your colors. We'll go ahead and grab this red here, which is the base color for the red. So it's the top of the 5th column, and we'll drag it into the circle there. Now at this point, of course, it's not looking like it matches very much, nor does the shadows. So what we want to go ahead and do is just turn off our shadows for a minute. We're going to go ahead and swipe this red layer to the left and duplicate it. And then the bottom one out of the two, drag it above in the group so it's right at the top, but turn off the clip so it's unclipped. Change the blend mode from normal to add. Go to your adjustments, go to Gaussian blur and swipe from left to right and just make it a nice large glow just to start with, around about 40%. And then go ahead and repeat. So swipe that to the left and duplicate it, and then grab the one underneath, up again, and move it to the top. Change the blend mode from normal to add, and then we can go ahead and go to our adjustments, Gaussian blur, swipe from left to right, and this time only to around about, say, 15%, and just duplicate that a few times, because then you should get this nice glow in the center. Now, how you make that glow look quite effective is by going right to the top of your layers then and creating a new layer. And then just with your soft airbrush set to maximum opacity, size could probably be quite large, say around about, say, 30%. Just go round in a circular motion ever so slightly until you get a red little circle like that. And then go to your blend mode and change it from normal to the option, of course, of add. And that will just bring the red tone just over the top of the grey at the bottom there as well. And now you should have a nice glowing version as well. But as I like to do, you've got the option now. So if you want to, you could turn off that top one and the glow and go back to the original version if that's what you prefer. I think I'm going to go ahead and I'll leave the glow version on, and we'll turn those layers on for it. The only thing I want to adjust is this layer here for the bottom half. I'm going to go ahead and go to my colors, and I'm going to grab the darkest tone. So it's the far left of the sort of grays, soft airbrush, and I'm going to bring it down to around about 8%. I just want to go ahead and bring that shadow down, that highlight down a little bit, like push it right to the very edge, but equally adding quite a dark tone over here. And I want to get rid of that bright edge there. I want to actually make it quite dark. So then we end up with more of the light over towards that right-hand side. And when you're done, you can pinch with 2 fingers, go full screen with 4, and you end up with today's finished design. So I hope you enjoyed this Pokeball tutorial. As always, make sure to tag me in your finished creations over on Instagram and Facebook. I love seeing your finished creations. Make sure to check out my Pokemon related channel. Again, it's Joel's Gaming Adventures. There'll be a link to it in the description down below. And if you want even more tutorials from me, you can come and join me over on Patreon. That's where I post 3 exclusive tutorials every single month to my Patreon supporters, and the catalogue sits at well over 130 exclusive tutorials at the time of recording. And with 3 more added every single month, the catalogue just continues to grow. And if you enjoyed this tutorial here on YouTube, you will love this one on the screen now. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one.